Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to talk to you about the books I am planning on reading in May 2023. Let's start off by discussing fiction. I have a lot of popular books and new releases on the menu for May. I don't know, they just seem like the right kind of books to welcome in the summer season with. But this first one, I hadn't originally planned on reading this. I had actually decided more or less against reading it, but I've since come around to it and I'm going to give it a try. It's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This book is about a female chemist in the 1950s who ends up hosting a very successful cooking show. And during this show, she actually encourages her predominantly female audience to continue to challenge the status quo, which was very big for women during the women's liberation movement. This one has gotten absolutely nothing but rave reviews that I have seen. I don't think I've heard a single bad word about this book. It seems like everyone was reading it there for a time after it first came out, which is probably why at the time I felt allergic to it. But I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to evolve. I'm trying not to avoid hyped books just because they're buzzy. So I'm going to give this one a go, and we'll see what happens. I'm getting in on the ground floor with this next book, however. It is a new release, and I am not going to wait to read Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is the newest romance from the author of Book Lovers. In this book, we follow a freshly broken up couple who had been together for years and years and years. They decide they are going to pretend to still be together for the sake of saving their annual vacation that they always take with their group of friends. So this is a second chance romance. I've never really read one of those before, but I adored Book Lovers when I read it last year, so I can't wait to read this. Another new release I'm eyeing up is The Last Animal by Ramona Acebel. The main character of this book is also a female scientist. Apparently that's a minor trend across this May TBR, but in this one we follow an archaeologist who travels all the way to Siberia in order to study the possibility of bringing the woolly mammoth, back from extinction. I've liked a previous book from this author, so I feel like my odds of enjoying this one are pretty decent. And then, if you saw my March wrap-up that I did, I mentioned that because I had so much fun reading the second book in a new cozy mystery series, I wanted to immediately move on to the third book because it comes out this month. So after it's released on May 9th, I believe it is, I'm going to be picking up Playing It Safe by Ashley Weaver. This is the third book in the Electra McDonnell series, which is a series all about a young woman, a lockpick, who decides to give up her family's secret trade of breaking into rich people's houses so that she can instead help the British government with the war effort during World War II. And in this one, we see the main character, Electra, hit the road, take on a fake identity for her latest mission. I have that second book fresh in my brain. I am all hyped up on it. I can't wait to move on to this third one. Then the last novel that I'm planning to pick up during the month of May is going to be my Storygraph recommendation for the month. If you haven't seen any of my TBRs thus far this year, then you may not know that it's been a little bit of an unofficial project of mine to pull recommendations from the Storygraph, ones that they provide me because I have a Plus membership, and then I try them out and I see if they're any good. I'm actually considering making a standalone video in which I talk about the recommendations they gave me and whether or not I actually like the books, and maybe give some opinions on whether or not the Storygraph Plus membership is worth your money. Let me know if you're interested in a video like that, and I'll add it to my list if you are. But I think the one they recommended to me that I'm taking them up on this month, I think they put this one in my feed because I am such a big fan of Rules of Civility. It is my all-time favorite novel. I would actually make a very bold claim that I probably would not make about any other book, that I may be that book's #1 fan. I've read it 8 times and I'm going to get a tattoo from it this year. I really love Rules of Civility. I talk about it nearly constantly on this channel, but I think this recommendation is kind of a Rules of Civility read-alike, at least according to them. So I'm going to see. I'm going to read The Social Graces by Renee Rosen. This book is set a few decades before Rules of Civility. However, it's set in New York City during what was known as the Gilded Age, and it depicts a fictionalized version of the rivalry between Mrs. Vanderbilt and Mrs. Astor. I actually never finished HBO's series called The Gilded Age. I've been meaning to go back and watch through the rest of those episodes. So I chose this book not just because they compare it to my all-time favorite novel, but I also thought it would be really nice to pair this book with that series. Another book that I'm planning on pairing, albeit a lot more loosely, with a TV series is one of the 23 nonfiction books I wanted to read this year. It's called Wild by Cheryl Strayed. Her book, Tiny Beautiful Things, was my favorite nonfiction book of last year, and it has since been adapted into a Hulu miniseries. But for whatever reason, I've been putting off watching that series because I feel like I want to have this memoir, her most famous memoir, about going on a 1,000-mile hike after the loss of her mother. I feel like I need to have this one under my belt before I watch that miniseries. I don't fully understand why. It's just something I feel like I need to do. I have heard mixed things about this, but I'm still looking forward to reading it, and then I'm definitely looking forward to watching that series. Then the other book from that 23 priority nonfiction books list that I'm going to read during the month of May is Reading Lolita in Tehran by Azar Nafisi. This is the memoir of a woman who ran a reading group in Iran in which the participants read forbidden Western classics. And as opposed to Wild, I have only heard spectacular things about this, so I have some pretty high expectations. I have 2 more nonfiction books that I'm aiming to read in the upcoming month. Next is Along Came a Llama by Ruth Jeanette Ruck. This is the true story of a Welsh family who adopted a baby llama back in the 1970s, back when that was a rather unusual thing to do. I just love these human-animal relationships types of stories. So when I hauled this one in my latest book haul, I knew I had to read it ASAP. And then finally, since I've really been on a roll with nature reads lately, I've been really enjoying the ones I've been picking up, I decided that in May, I'm going to finally read World of Wonders by Amy Nezuko Matatil. This is a collection of essays all about different remarkable creatures. This book seems absolutely adorable. I can't believe I waited this long to read this. But now that I've shown you all of those books that I planned out, the ones I planned for my May TBR, the only thing I have left to do is pick my random book off of my TBR for the month. If you've never seen me do this, it's a feature that I used to do a number of years ago. I have since revived it because I really missed it. In order to pick my random book off of my massive Goodreads TBR, I go to my to-read shelf on Goodreads. I sort all of those books by number, and then I use a random number generator to help me select 3 different options of books. Now, those 3 options need to be books that I could potentially read. They can't be future releases or out-of-print titles, anything that I couldn't realistically go out and get my hands on. And then of those 3 options, I choose one to read during the month. I've got my laptop here to help me find my 3 options, and option number 1 is a big old biography of Andrew Carnegie by David Nassau. Option number 2 is another one that I just recently hauled. It's called The Moth Snowstorm by Michael McCarthy. And option number 3 is All That Moves Us, a pediatric neurosurgeon, his young patients, and their stories of grace and resilience by Jay Wellens. I've got 3 really good options here. The Moth Snowstorm was the one that immediately stood out because I am enjoying reading nature books so much, but because I already have 2 of them on my May TBR, I'm just not sure I need a third. I think that might be a little much. I want a little bit of this and that on every single one of my TBRs. So I'm going to save the Moth Snowstorm for a future springtime. So that one's out. The Andrew Carnegie biography struck me as being a really interesting possible choice for May because during May we have the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books. So I feel like that would be a good choice to honor Pittsburgh during this month. But I'm just not sure that I'm in the mood to read a big chunky biography right now. I think I prefer reading those in the fall and winter when it's colder outside. So that leaves option number 3. And even though I think it's going to be a tearjerker, I think I'm going to go with All That Moves Us. Now that I've picked my random book, that's it for my May TBR. All the books that I talked about today, I would love to hear your thoughts on down in the comment section below. And all the books that I mentioned will be linked for you in the description box below. They're there for your clicking convenience. And just as a reminder, in case you didn't see my April TBR or in case you've forgotten, during May, I'm going to continue taking it a little bit slower with uploading. I'm just taking it easy for a little bit. I'm still around, just not posting quite as much as I normally do. Nothing's wrong. I'm just fine. I'm just taking a breather, just giving myself a little bit of a break before we roll into the summer season where I'll have some new good content for you. But if you want to keep in touch with me during that period of time where I'm around here on YouTube a little bit less than normal, at the bottom of the description box below, you'll see links to everywhere you can find me across social media, like Goodreads, the Story Graph, Instagram, all the places I'm the most active, in case you want to keep up with what I am reading and writing about right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.